Daddy Pot, welcome. Thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Oh, glad to do it.
I wanted to share a funny story before I ask you questions because it came back to mind whenever I was thinking about this conversation. It was when I was 7 or 8. I remember you were still driving your motorcycle
Okay.
and y'all had come all the way down the Dothan to the house.
I
And
remember that.
you remember that?
I took you for a ride.
Oh, you took me for a ride and you asked me, you said, you know how to get home, right? And I was like, yes. I had no idea how to get home. But I wanted to ride the motorcycle and we hopped on and we did a loop and found our way back home.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Mama was too happy, but but I had a good time. So I just remember that. So so now, what's something that you understand that you wish you understood a long, long time ago?
Hmm. The right priorities in life, which needs to be God first, is your priority. Family second, and business falls on down. Whereas for too long, as a young adult trying to make my way, provide for my family, I focused too much on that and let the other slide. And as a result, not walking with the Lord, not being a spiritual leader in my home in the early years of my adult life, your grandmother and I didn't make it. And it was, as much my fault as hers. It always two-sided. But my part of it was not being the spiritual leader in my home, which is extremely important when you get married. So don't forget that.
Yeah. And for context, you and would have been my mama Sissy were married and had my dad and Aunt Elizabeth,
That's
which
correct.
are there. And then you found the Lord and got remarried and had two more amazing kids. Can you share a little bit of like that process, like how you found Jesus after your first marriage?
Yes, I was having a real difficult time dealing with it. And I rebelled against everything that made sense, really, and medicated with alcohol. I would take aimless trips, stay gone days at the time, no destination. So one Friday afternoon, I told my secretary, I got to get out of here. She said, where are you going? I said, I don't know. She said, well, how long are you going to be gone? And I said, I don't know. And she looked at me and said, are you coming back? And I said, I hope so. And I got in the car and drove up toward Bessemer, Alabama. I had been to this motel before called the Journey's End, and they had a live country band every Friday night. I didn't even slow down at the registration desk, and I went back there and started drinking, listening to good old country music, feeling sorry for myself. Fortunately, I had enough sense not to get back in my car and maybe kill myself or somebody else. I would hate to see a video of me somehow staggering up to the registration desk and checking in, getting a key. We had keys in those days. And stumbling across that parking lot trying to find the room. But I did finally find it and had trouble getting the key in the door. I can still remember almost holding on to the door frames and just thinking, man, I'm just tired. I need to lay down, rest, sleep. And I just fell across the bed and I passed out. I woke up several hours later. It was the middle of the night. I don't know exactly what time it was, but it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up and the first thought was, where are you this time, Jimmy? And I reached over and turned on the light, and I looked over there on the other side of the room. There lays this Bible laying open on top of the table right next to the TV. Well, I went over there and I recognized it as a Bible place for the Gideons. We'd all seen those over the years in hotel rooms, but normally one's in the drawer somewhere. And so this one was open, and I picked it up. I didn't want to read it. I mean, I knew what was in it. I mean, you know, I went to church growing up. I could talk Jesus as good as anybody. Mm. And so I just kind of slammed it shut. But my thumb got caught in it the way I closed it. And I just flippantly, for some reason, opened it back up, just kind of flippantly. And there, underlined, was Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart. Lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your path. At Calvary, I'm telling you, I didn't hear voices, but the Spirit of the Lord spoke to my spirit so strong that I literally, physically fell on the floor and just started weeping like a child uncontrollably. I don't know how long it was, but I got control of my emotions, and I remember looking up and saying, Lord, I know who you are. And if you'll get me out of here, you will be the Lord of my life. Mm. And that was the turning point in my life. A lot of things happened after that, but just to give you a quick view of what took place to bring me to not only maturity as a Christian man, but also how God sent a Christian woman into my life. And so I knew I needed to go back to church. And your mama, sis, and I were members of a little church, probably had 100 members. Anyway, they were doing some construction, and you had to walk outside to go around to go to the worship center. Well, I knew I needed to go to Sunday school. I just sensed it. So I got up and went down to the church and found the biggest Sunday school class. I knew where it was. Dr. Carden was teaching. I don't even know really what the lesson was about. You know, I waited till all the fellowshipping, coffee drinking was over, slipped in the back.
Oh, yeah.
And then before, you know, people could, you know, look around and see who, I jumped up, started down the hall. I got about halfway down the hall, this big guy. How tall are you, Calvary?
Like 6 foot. Mm.
Yeah, well, he was 6'4".
That's a tall man.
Big man. And I knew him, but I didn't know him really personally. And he and his family went to church there. He caught up with me in the hall and put his arm around me and looked down and said, Jimmy Duren, hadn't seen you in a while. He said, I understand you need a friend. Whoa, man, I looked up at him. I said, what do you mean, Sam? I mean, I was a little bit, you know, taken aback. I didn't know what he was up to. And he said, hey, why don't we have lunch one day this week? Let's talk about it. I said, Sam, I got a busy week. But, you know, I hadn't said it good, and I realized that this guy's trying to help you. I said, Sam, I do have a busy week. How about breakfast? He said, oh, that's great. I said, how about 6 o'clock in the morning? I think I wanted to see if he really wanted to meet with me.
Yeah.
He said, oh, that's perfect. I'm an early riser. There's a little red house in Tuscaloosa, the Waysider restaurant. Mm. And many people know it. You probably have been there. Mm-hmm. And I met him there the next morning. Sam Ross met with me every Monday morning at the Waysider for a year. Mm. It was unbelievable. He, little did I know, 5 years before that, he had been led of the Lord to start discipling young adult men that were in trouble. And my pastor, Ken Houchin, he had told Sam, he said, if you ever can take on another young man, take on Jimmy Duren. He's in trouble. And that's how that came about. And Sam used the Navigator's material, which you may be familiar with. It's a memorization of Scripture program, and we followed that pretty closely. Memorized Scripture, We laughed together, prayed together, cried together. But over that 12-month period, Sam brought me to a level of spiritual maturity that I had never understood or been at ever before. And about the 10th, 11th month of that, it was summer, and I remember telling Sam, I said, Sam, I'm lonely. I had just moved into an apartment. He helped me move in. You've heard this story probably, but I didn't have anything. I'd left all my furniture and everything over at Mama Sis's house in Riverdale. So I was living with my parents in the basement of their home at Lake Tuscaloosa. Well, my dad was pushing me to get out of there. I'd been there several months. And anyway, so I complained to my mother, and I said, Mom, I hadn't even got any furniture. She said, well, Jimmy, there's no lawn chair out there under the stairs. You can take that with you. I thought, come on, Mom.
They set you up.
No. So I took the lawn chair. And my grandmother heard about it. She said, well, I got a dinette suit up in my attic. You can have that. I went up there and got it. And I moved in. And that's really all I had. But there was no TV that Mama Sis had out in the garage because it quit working, and her daddy had bought a new TV for her. And so I had seen it out there because I'd go to pick up the kids. And so I said, what are you going to do with that TV? She said, I don't know. I said, well, you mind if I take it? She said, no, you can have it. Well, it didn't work. But I took it to a TV place, a good friend of mine, Marshall Fields, and he fixed it for $25. So I took the TV over there to the apartment. And then I called my good friend who was one of the co-owners of Union Furniture Company. We'd been friends, and he was a client. And I said, Aaron Christian, I said, Aaron, I've moved into an apartment. I said, I don't even have a bed to sleep on. And I need a bed, a nightstand, a lamp, and a chest of drawers. He said, no problem. I said, but I ain't got any money. He said, don't worry about it. He said, we'll work it out. And his guys delivered all that. And I had all that in my first apartment at High River over in Northport.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I did move in, and I remember getting on my knees and thanking the Lord for what he had done for me over the last 12 months. And I said, Lord, I'm a lonely man. And I said, Lord, would you send a Christian lady into my life, would you? Well, the Lord just put it together. It was absolutely amazing. My insurance company was Franklin Life Insurance Company in those days, and we did a lot of work with the Tuscaloosa City and County school system. And we had payroll deduction set up, and we would sell life insurance, disability insurance, annuities, and other things to the teachers. And so they allowed us to come to this new teacher meeting and tell the teachers what we provided. Different vendors would have 5 or 10 minutes. So, but as the teachers would come in, we would give them a card because we were going to give away a door prize, which we did. But we wanted the card for the name, address, phone number so we could call them.
Yeah.
So I had 2 associates with me at that time, and we went back to the office. We had a stack of cards about that high. And I remember telling them, look, guys, we're going to turn these over where we can't see the names, addresses, phone numbers, nothing. And so we shuffled them out like a deck of cards. And Vicki was in my stack.
Wow.
Now, that's the Lord.
Yeah.
And I called Vicki. In those days, I made phone calls on Sunday night religiously every week to set up my week. And she thought it was kind of strange that some guy was calling her on Sunday night wanting to talk about insurance. her experience with insurance was growing up with people knocking on the door trying to sell it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, interestingly, what was going on in her life, she graduated from the University of Alabama in education, got a teaching job to go to Georgia. They were coming over to Tuscaloosa at the University of Alabama recruiting young teachers. They had a shortage over there. And she had a girlfriend that they had graduated together, and she was from Opp, Alabama, and they just decided, well, we'll just go together. So they both took a job and moved to Griffin, Georgia. Mm-hmm. And she taught for 2 years over there. And in the spring of that second year, she said, I don't know what it was. I just felt like I needed to come home. Mm-hmm. She didn't even have a job. In fact, she almost missed the interview to get a job. And that's a whole nother story. But the point being, she got there and got that job a couple of days before this meeting. I mean, just think about how we could have missed each other. Mm. But the Lord was orchestrating that all along. And so she was there. And interestingly, when she and I talked about it many years later, she said, I looked at you. And she said, I noticed you didn't have a wedding ring on. And she said, I had thoughts about, I'd like to meet that guy. And, of course, when I called her and I said, Vicki, this is Jimmy Duren with Franklin Life. I said, you may not remember me. And she said, oh, I remember you. Mm-hmm. I thought,
yeah.
And so I asked her to come to the office. Well, let me back up. I said, I want to come see you and share with you what we provide for the teachers. I said, I can come to your house or you can come to my office. She said, well, I would prefer to come to your office because I just moved back to town and living with my parents. I said, okay. So she did come to the office and we talked, and ended up she bought some insurance to insure her paycheck if she got disabled, sick or injured. And in those days, the underwriting for these type policies was very strict and it took a while. Mm-hmm. And they required all kinds of things. We had trouble getting the medical records. I mean, it was just a long process. It took almost 2 months. Mm. And I didn't see her during that time. But when her policy finally got issued, I called her and told her, I said, good news, we've got your policy. It's all approved, just like I told you how it would work, and I need to go over it with you. And I said, would you still want to come to the office? And she said, oh, yeah. And so she came to the office, and boy, she looked great. And I could hardly keep my mind on talking about insurance. Mm-hmm. Finally, when I had explained the policy and everything, I said, Vicki, if I were to ask you to go to dinner, would you go? She said, well, call me sometime. And we laugh about, I think she thinks it was like the next day or so. I was thinking it was a week, or vice versa. I don't remember, but we laugh about the fact. But the point was, I called her, we had our first date, and 6 months later, we were married.
Wow.
And it was a God thing.
Yeah.
And I knew that I knew that I knew. Mm. And I was still struggling, having trouble turning loose of the past, mainly because of your dad and Aunt Elizabeth. And I just couldn't get my head wrapped around, a new dynamic of being married and closing the book totally on my first, marriage and life and everything. And I struggled with that. And so anyway.
What was it that helped you overcome to like?
Well, a lot of things. Of course, I was growing spiritually, and that was the biggest thing. Because one of the things is I was going to counseling myself with Dr. C.C. Randall, who was the pastor at First Baptist Church, and he was a tremendous counselor, and people knew it. And I I was referred to him and got a chance to go sit with him. And after about the third visit, and I was talking a lot about Vicky, and he said, well, you know what you need to do, don't you? Mm. And I said, what? He said, you need to close the door on your past and you need to move forward. Mm. And he said, the Lord will help you do that. And he gave me the courage to do that. And I was able to ask Vicky to marry me, and, the rest is history. One other little part of that story, I had already asked her to marry me. We were driving down the road talking about various things, and I said, Vicky, if I don't know that I ever want any more children. I've got children. Mm-hmm. She didn't say anything. She's a woman of great wisdom. And even in those days, she was 26 years old after we got married, but 25 mm-hmm. the day we did get married. But anyway, young, to have a lot of wisdom. And so she waited, and finally she said, well, Jimmy, if God would want us to have children, we'd have children. And if he doesn't, we won't. Mm-hmm. Well, what are you going to say to that?
You can't say anything. That was very wise.
And 5 years later, Andrew came along.
Wow.
So, it's been a great journey in so many ways. And because I had that encounter with the Gideons in the motel room, and then Sam Ross, by the way, was a Gideon. Mm-hmm. And I'd had 2 exposures to the Gideons. Then about 5 years after, in fact, Andrew he was young, like a year old, so I guess it was 6 years after we married, but no, it wasn't, it was 5 years. Anyway, it was 1985, September, and I got a phone call, and it was someone asking me to come to a meeting that they were having, and they were going to explain the Gideon ministry.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Yeah, did I want to come? And, of course, I was excited. And I said, sure, I want to come. And so I went to the meeting. It was at the Holiday Inn, which now there's a Comfort Inn and a new Avid Inn, or Avid Motel. They're on Skyland Boulevard. On McFarland Boulevard, close to Skyland. Anyway. That was a big Holiday Inn down there. So we go down there, and of course a lot of people there. And I can remember thinking, and I walked up and I said, "Hey, how do you join this organization?" And he said, "Come on in. We'll tell you about that." And they did, of course. And I joined that night, and came home. I was all excited. I was telling Vicky about it, and she was happy for me, but I could tell she wasn't overly happy. Mm. And I'm thinking, what is this? And so then I thought, well, wait a minute. I said, you can join too. And she said, what? And I said, yeah. I said, they have an auxiliary, which is the wives of the Gideons. And it's a very important part of the ministry. And she said, oh. And then she got excited about it. And so the next month they had the second meeting, and they invited all the wives to come. Mm. And she joined that night. And that was in 1985. And just been an amazing journey. That has played a big part in my spiritual growth. The Lord has given me opportunities that I would have never imagined. In that motel room that night. I look back and think about that sometimes. And God only gives you what he knows you're ready to receive. And he doesn't tell you the whole thing up front. But what if God had said, now, Jimmy, let me tell you, here's what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. You're going to be an ambassador for me. In fact, you're going to travel the world. And you're going to speak to thousands of people. And you're going to be my ambassador. I mean, if he'd have told me that night, I would have said, you got the wrong guy. I mean, but none of that happened,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And like I said, 5 or 6 years later, we joined the Gideons. And even that, joining in 1985, I didn't take my first international trip till 1996.
Mm-hmm.
So for 11 years, I enjoyed the Gideons on a local level. I got a little bit involved in the state level, just went to a state convention to get a bigger view of what was going on. And then ultimately I went to an international convention. And once I went to one of those and saw this worldwide ministry and how God was working in such a unique way through this organization of Christian business and professional men and their wives. And I was asked, would you like to travel with the Gideons? And I said yes. And so I had my first opportunity, and I went on an international scripture blitz in Romania and the Czech Republic, and I was hooked.
Mm.
And they made me a regional field officer and assigned me to 22 countries in West Africa.
Wow.
Not 22. I've traveled in 22.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 18 countries, but they were all up the western part of the continent of Africa. Of course, in those days, you couldn't go to all those countries, even though they were in your responsibility, but you did the best you could, because we didn't have near the people we have traveling today. And but I concentrated on about 7 or 8 countries, Togo and Benin and Mali and Niger and Senegal and Sierra Leone and Ghana. That was 8 that I focused on. And I traveled to those countries several times a year. And it was just an amazing adventure, the whole thing. And still is.
So the Gideons at different points of your walk with the Lord have had major impacts.
Major impact.
You had Sam Ross, who was discipling you all the way through to your travels, and even today you're still a part of it, going to Colombia and discipling other leaders to be able to do the work of ministry.
That's right.
So if you were sitting down with young men and discipling them, kind of like how Sam Ross did, what are some of the key things that you would say to them?
Well, the same thing that's similar to the first question you asked, and that is you got to get your priorities right.
Mm-hmm.
And once you get God first, everything else falls into place. And you've got to live a balanced life because we are not of this world. We're in the world, but not of this world.
Yeah.
And so you got to live life. And, we have an adversary that hates what we're doing when we start making a dent in the kingdom, in his kingdom here on earth. But his days are numbered. We're on the winning side, but we got to stay in the battle, and it's daily.
Yeah.
It's spiritual warfare, and if you don't believe it, you're just not doing anything for the Lord. And the devil knows where our weaknesses are. We're humans. We all have weaknesses. None of us are perfect, and he knows what buttons to punch, and he'll do it relentlessly. And so when you get the priority right first, of God first in your life, then you start developing that. And you start with that daily walk with the Lord, reading his word daily and praying and having communication with the Lord. And you learn his voice, and you start realizing that he will direct your path. He will guide your steps. And as you've heard me say many times, and it's just I think visually, and it's that door that I'm always looking for. Is this a door that is open that I need to walk through? Is this a door that's shut? Is this a door I want to walk through, but it's not open really. Maybe I can push it through, Mm-mm. So the point being that God first, priority, and then other things start falling into place. You develop self-discipline because you got to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow Him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not always easy. You've already experienced that in your own young life, having to make choices early on that maybe weren't what everybody else thought you ought to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you felt strongly that that's what the Lord was leading you to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would help a young man to understand, because otherwise the world has such a grip and there's so many distractions and so many ways to fall off the wagon, so to speak.
Yeah, I remember you talking about some of those distractions. You came over to our house one time on a trip with our young adults group,
Yeah.
and you talked about the major areas that people usually fall off, the temptations specifically for young men.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about those?
Well, everybody has different weaknesses and tendencies. And some of it is, for young men, is sexual. And sex is a gift that God gives us. And it's sort of like, as I heard Tony Evans say, he said, fire is beautiful in the fireplace, but in the curtains, it's disaster. And the point being that you have to understand what God's purpose for that is, and it's the procreation of the next generation. And God is so good, and He gives us a gift, and it's a pleasurable gift that He's given us. But He says, but here's the boundaries in which you need to utilize this. And the world says exactly the opposite. And all you have to do is turn on the television. It's so natural on TV now to, you don't get married first, you move in together, and sex is just part of the deal. And so that's a big temptation, especially for men, because we are built to pursue. And that sex drive with some men is stronger than others. And those in which it's the strongest, that's the big temptation, and it can lead you in the wrong direction fast. Others are weaknesses to alcohol, and that can become a real problem. My view is that you do anything you may do, Jesus talks about it. It's not what comes, into the body, it's what comes out. And I believe that you can do things in moderation, but not only do you think about yourself, but you got to think about others, because you've got a witness. And if what you might know you have liberty to do as a Christian, if this is going to offend someone else because they don't have that same thought about it, then you don't do it, especially in their presence. And, that's a part of that temptation. And then, of course, in today's culture, sadly, drugs are everywhere. And just those three can put a man down, any one of those three. And so you need to be aware of that and be sensitive to that the devil will use those things. He can't create anything on his own. So he takes what God has created and he twists it and he makes it something that God never intended it to be. And, you see, even going back to the Old Testament and the Israelites, he gives them manna and he tells them, look, just eat what you're going to eat today. Don't worry about tomorrow. I'll provide it again tomorrow. But some of them try to hoard it, because the sin nature of man. I mean, you see it from the very beginning, all the way back to the garden. And so we're born with that sin nature, but we have to be careful with it. It's in the flesh. We're not going to get rid of it in this life. That's why we don't take these bodies to heaven, because the flesh is where the sin is, and the flesh is going to stay here, and the spirit is going to go to be with the Lord. We'll get new bodies, and that's not going to have any sin nature associated with it. So you got to be sensitive to those distractions and temptations that are out there today.
What's one thing that was unexpected about growing up and getting older? Like that you just, it happened and you weren't expecting it?
Early on or later?
Later.
Well, your body is not designed for eternity. And for so long, especially when you're younger, you feel like you're invincible. You don't think about things.
Yeah.
And then later on, your body, kind of a joke, but it's a cliche. A good friend of mine said, when your mind makes a date that your body can't keep, you're halfway to eternal sleep. And the point being that your body changes and it catches you by surprise and you're not expecting it. I mean, I've had quadruple bypass. Think about that. I've had both hips replaced. I've had 3 back surgeries and a UroLift. All of that. And I didn't expect any of that, and it jumps on you. And you've got to deal with it. Now, fortunately, in the world that we live in, and the country that we live in, and the modern technology, medical technology, if I had been born 100 years earlier, I would probably either be crippled or dead. But just those things I mentioned has sustained me to age 78, where I can still function. I can still go and do things. And that was very unexpected, those things that hit me. And they started, in the, 14 years ago, I would have been how old? I'm 78 now, so I'd been 64. I was 64 when I had quadruple bypass. I had already had 2 back surgeries. So those things, happen. And you got to know that it's going to come one day. But yes, the physical breakdown has been the most unexpected things when they happened.
Yeah, because you feel like you're invincible when you're my age. Like I'm 24 right now, and if you could swap bodies with me for a day and you had the body of a 24-year-old, what's the first thing that you do?
Oh, I don't know. I'd probably take a run. Just the joy of being out there running on your own or taking a long walk. I used to walk on the beach for an hour. I can only walk maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I got to stop because these hips hurt. And running days are over. I can't run, unless somebody's chasing me. And it's life or death. But seriously, I used to love to run. I ran track in high school, and even though I griped about it and complained about all the running in the military and through officers training school and saying I'd never run again after all that. But I used to love to run. And then it got to be I enjoyed walking. And but those can't do those things like that anymore. So if I had your body, that'd be the first thing I'd do. Put on a good pair of running shoes and take off.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this interview with my granddad. We're just taking this break to let you know that from this point on in the interview, we won't have any video because we had some problems getting power to our cameras, but the audio is gold. We talk about marriage, about being a dad, about finance, about leadership, spiritual discipleship, and much more. So I would encourage you to keep listening and enjoy the rest of this interview with my granddad and I. If I were to walk into your house when you were around like 10 years old, what would I see and what would I smell whenever I walked in?
Well, you might smell my mother's cooking, and you would see a house full of 5 kids, me being the second oldest, and you would see a long table that we all sat around on stools to eat when we all came together. My dad was insistent, that we eat as much as possible in the evening together. Didn't always happen, but it happened enough to where it was memorable. And we definitely all ate together on Sunday, went to church, and that was just a given. And we never really questioned it, I mean, that was life. And at 10 years old, I was had just gotten a brand new English bicycle. I don't know if you know what an English bicycle is.
I don't think so.
Well, and today, when you see bicycles, you see the real thin tires. Well, before those came popular, you had the much thicker tires and the bigger, heavier bicycles. These were very lightweight, so you could really fly. You had gears, and I had gotten one for Christmas when I was 7. I had asked for it, and I loved that English bicycle. And so you'd have seen that. You'd have seen my dog Footsie, who was my best friend, and you'd have seen all that. We lived in a house that was painted pink because my mother loved pink. Only pink house, and probably in the city, let alone the neighborhood.
With your dad, do you think that you've become like your dad or different? What was he like?
Well, my dad and I had a strange relationship for a long time. Not that I didn't highly respect my dad, but he and I were so different. And I didn't appreciate who he really was. In fact, it wasn't until the last 5 years of his life when we started playing golf together that I really got to know my dad. I had had glimpses of him and got to know him better when we served together in the National Guard. And one summer I was his aide de camp and he was a general. And we went to Camp Shelby in south of Hattiesburg, Mississippi for 2 weeks, and flew helicopters and drove around all inspecting troops and all that stuff. It was really exciting, and I got to know him a little bit then, seeing him in a different light. But it was those last 5 years that we became real friends, and I realized that he was a champion. He really was. And he was of that generation, though, that he didn't know how to show love. He didn't show affection. My dad never told me he loved me, ever. But it was that generation. So I had to learn that, And then looking back on it, I see so many things that he did that were important for our family, and how he handled adversity. When I was a senior in high school, the soft drink bottling plant burned to the ground. And I remember that when they finally could get in there after the firemen left and everything, and they had all this soot on all these soft drinks. And I mean, his whole inventory was in there, hundreds of cases of drinks. But they were sealed, so the drinks themselves were okay.
Mm.
So, you know, what he did, he had a fire sale. And I remember it like yesterday. He said, I want you to go with me. And he put on some overalls. And he said, let's get it. And we did. Mm. And we sold everything we had. Put it in the newspaper, people knew. Wow. And they came, and word of mouth, and sold everything. And that was a critical thing, because cash flow was always tight. Mm-hmm. I thought my middle name was Can't Afford It. I mean, seriously. He didn't make any money in the soft drink business until the last 8 or 10 years of it. Mm-hmm. And then it really took off after we were able to get the Dr. Pepper franchise. That was really the turning point. And we went from 5 route trucks to 12 overnight. Mm. And then when we merged with the RC company and then took them over, we moved to 15 route trucks. And everything just fell into place. And then he was able to sell that business in 1986 for over $2 million. Mm. And that was big money back then.
Yeah.
And it'd probably be $5 million today. And,
wow.
And it was a life's work.
Mm-hmm.
And he had taken it. He went into business with his father-in-law, my daddy pop, after the World War II. And, you know, it was just a little business, and they built it up. They never had new bottling equipment until after that fire. Mm-hmm. They never had a decent facility. That was a wood building, and it wasn't very big, and they were able to build it twice as big. And it was because my dad was such a good business manager, and he had excellent credit, and he had great trade relations with the people he did business with that he bought supplies from. This is important, thinking about him that you don't know very much about. But after that fire took place, you know, that could have been the end of the business. But that turning point of that fire sale, and then he was able to, the bank gave him a small business loan. He had insurance. He believed in insurance. And between the insurance and the small business loan, we were able to build it back. We were able to get new bottling equipment. All of that happened the year before we had the opportunity to buy Dr. Pepper. Mm. Now think about that. We would not have been able to handle that. We wouldn't have had the facilities to handle it, the equipment. Mm-hmm. But all of that was in place when we had the chance to get the Dr. Pepper franchise.
Wow.
And so it just was amazing to look back on it and see the timing of those things. And we were not in the vending business. Might as well be not. We had like 15 vending machines all over Tuscaloosa. 15, that's nothing. I mean, Coca-Cola had 200, you know.
Yeah.
And so, well, more than that. But the point was that the guy that had the Dr. Pepper franchise, he was a terrible business manager. That's why he ended up having to sell it. But he was a great marketer.
Mm-hmm.
He had vending machine locations all over town. But the problem was he never could keep good equipment out there, and half the vending machines weren't working.
Mm-hmm.
And so as soon as we got the franchise and people knew about it, they started calling, come get this piece of junk out here. Well, Daddy's thinking, well, wait a minute, if we lose those locations, because they were in locations that we just dreamed about. I mean, all the fraternities and sororities had vending machines in them that he had got in there. Most places, service stations, all the things where you had vending machines. And that was a big part of getting your product sold, because it was coming on more and more, vending was. And so, in any case, the ventilator company, crazy things happened. Like Coca-Cola, it was the same product, but if it had Coca-Cola on it, it was called Vendo. But if it had anything else, it was called Ventilator. Same company.
Yeah.
But that was the ego of Coca-Cola. But the point being that the guy called my dad up, heard about what was happening, and he had been trying to, sell new vending machines to the other guy that had the Dr. Pepper all along. Of course, he didn't have the money to buy it.
Mm-hmm. So
he called my dad, and he said, and they called my dad Buddy in business, and that was his nickname. And he said, Buddy, he said, I understand you need some new vending machines. Daddy said, yes, we need some desperately, but I don't have any money to buy them. We're just operating on a shoestring right now, living on borrowed money. He said, how many you need? He said, well, we could use about 100. He said, they'll be in your warehouse in the next few weeks. Mm. And he said, what? He said, yeah, we're going to send them there. He said, we'll work out the credit. You're good for it. Mm. Same thing happened in the fountain business, where you have fountain machines everywhere. Mm-hmm. See, that was just getting started. And he had fountain locations in restaurants all over town. Well, we had none of that. And the Cornelius Company, they were big in that. They called my dad. And similar situation. And they sent in all new fountain syrup equipment. And we replaced all that equipment. So overnight, we were in the vending and the fountain business, which became about a third of our distribution, which was a big deal. And so Daddy he took the business through those things and handled the ups and the downs. And I look back on it and I see so much that I wanted to model from the business standpoint, because he was such a good businessman.
So with finances, it sounds like you took after him with the business, and now you have your own business today.
Yeah.
What's some financial wisdom that you would give to people today?
Pay your taxes and keep good credit.
Yeah. Don't go to jail.
No, the cash is still king.
Mm-hmm.
That may not be in the form of a dollar bill, but it's still cash, liquid assets. Mm-hmm. You got to be careful about that when you're trying to run a business, because you got to have operating capital to keep it going. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot of money to run a business. And we have, an office building that I have 2 partners in, and we set up a LLC for that, for limited liability, and also to keep that part of our business totally separate from our operating business. And, one time I think you may know this, I was a regional manager with American General, who mm-hmm. bought Franklin Life. In those days, you had the insurance and the investments under the same roof. Now they're totally separate. Mm-hmm. But in those days, they were together, and I was appointed the regional manager and served in that capacity for 7 years. The problem was the system that was in place at that time with Franklin Life that was continued with American General but was stopped with AIG when they bought American General. It was a 10-year run. It was like a bell curve because I served as the bank. Mm-hmm. In other words, when a new guy came into the business, he couldn't make enough in commission to live on. So you loaned them money. Mm-hmm. And their future earnings was the collateral. And so I had 6 figures, double, out there in debt. Well, the debt goes up, and then it starts coming down. So it had peaked at about $250,000, and it was still at $200,000 when AIG took over American General. And I got a phone call, and they said, "We're discontinuing the regional manager system as you know it. We'll call you and negotiate your region."
Wow.
And that was it. I mean, gone. And, you know, I had almost 50 people that was in my group and throughout Alabama and part of Mississippi. And, you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I went to my knees first.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought, man, I mean, I had built a new house and had obligations and, you know, trying to save for college and for the kids and all that stuff. You know, you got life going. Mm-hmm. And it took a lot to live. And, of course, we were enjoying a good lifestyle, too.
Yeah.
So, anyway, we were able to work through it. And they were offered, "We will forgive that debt if you'll sign this affidavit that says that if we had to pay it off, you would have to declare bankruptcy." And that wasn't true. And, man, I struggled over that. There were 39 regional managers left when AIG took over. At one time, they had over 100 scattered around America. And I was the only one that didn't take the deal. And, you know, they realized I was serious, and I told them, I said, I can't sign that. And I said, you can adjust it, and I'll sign something, but not this. Anyway, long and the short of it, over several weeks, we ended up, they agreed to forgive half of it. But I still owed over $100,000. And I had to finance that with a bank. Fortunately, I had good credit myself. But it took me 6 or 7 years to pay that off. And but things like that happen in business. And you got to keep your eye on the prize and, you know, realize that this is a long ball game. This is a marathon, not a sprint. And you're going to have downturns. And you're going to have mountaintops and valleys. That's life. And in business, it happens. So, I mean, I'm blessed. And the Lord has run my business a whole lot better than I've been able to. I turned it over to him a long time ago. When I realized I had the opportunity to travel so much for the Gideons and do things like that. And I just said, "Lord, you take it," you know. And I mean, you wouldn't believe some of the stories I could tell you of how business just fell in my lap. The first, I'll tell you one thing.
Yeah.
I was a regional manager, having 45 people, I think, at that time. And we had a new president of the company that American General had appointed. He was a real jerk. And he was trying to be a control freak over all of us regional managers. We were independent contractors. And so we had some latitude. But he made it clear that if he called your office, you better be there. Well, I had the chance to go to Romania and the Czech Republic. Remember I told you about that in 1996. Gone 2 weeks. I prayed over it and I said, Lord, I think this is where you want me to go. You take care of it. Not only did the guy not call, we had the best month we had had all year. Is that not the Lord?
That is the Lord. It has to be.
And I knew right then that he could handle it a lot better than me. And so, you know, I'm not a rich man by any means, but we've always had what we need. And I'm 78 and I'm still able to work. I enjoy my work. I don't work too hard anymore. Work about 4 days a week. Vicky'd say 5, but I do work.
Yeah.
I take Fridays off most of the time now. And I don't take on any clients without splitting it with Elizabeth, because she's our succession plan.
Yeah.
And so that helps a lot. And so just her getting in the business with me was a blessing.
Yeah.
You know, because I told her when she started in the business, I said, look, I said, you need to go to work with somebody that will pay you and train you, give you a chance to find out if you even like the business. She was 30-something, 38, I think. And I said, you know, Merrill Lynch will do that. And so you go to work with them. I said, now, if you're good at this and you really like it, you're going to want to get in the independent channel. That's what we're in. So that's a long story, but basically we have a lot more latitude to of products that we can represent and sell.
Yeah.
Whereas with a company like Merrill Lynch, they've got their strict rules and things, and you're basically an employee. And she excelled there. And so she stayed there, I think, 8 or 9 years. And one day she called me up and said, Dad, I want to talk to you. Well, as things happen, and again, this is just the Lord. I'd been on a mission trip somewhere, I don't even remember where, Mexico. And I flew back through Dallas. She had been on some trip somewhere, and we met each other in Dallas. We hadn't planned it, but we realized we were going to be there at the same time, just in our communication. We met up, and we flew home together on the same plane. And all the way home, we talked about her coming to work with me.
Wow.
And she resigned after she got home. And, you know, she's been very successful and still is. And she's smarter than me. And I'm thankful to have her with me.
Yeah, and Elizabeth's so good. I love her.
She's a sweetheart. She really is.
I am not married yet, but hope to be married one day. What's some marriage advice that you would give?
Well, one of them I've already given you.
Be
the spiritual leader in your home. And don't be unequally yoked together. Don't marry a woman who doesn't share your faith as a Christian, that doesn't, it's not willing to follow your lead spiritually. And find a good, godly Christian woman. They're out there. And you'll be so happy you did. So, and relax about it. The Lord knows. He knows what you need. He's already got your plans laid out. He just hadn't revealed it all to you yet. He already knows who it is. I'm telling you. And he'll bring her to you. And sometimes when you least expect it. And but keep your eyes open, because I knew that God had brought Vicky to me. I needed her, and he knew it. Some men need to be married more than others. I'm one of those that need to be married. And so God will bring the right woman to you. You just have to trust him and pray about it Vicky, bless her, she said, I prayed about you long before I met you.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, when I met you, I knew you were the one.
Mm.
Isn't that something? That's
Wow.
just because she was walking close with the Lord, just like you are.
Mm.
Just keep walking with the Lord. And when the time's right, He will reveal to you. And you may have already met her. You don't even know yet. So just relax.
Mm.
Enjoy this season of your life and wait on the Lord.
Mm.
He will provide.
So once you get into marriage, how do you keep the marriage?
Well, just remember that God is the glue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've seen me say this before, but this triangle,
Mm-hmm.
here you are, here she is, here's God. The closer you get to God, what else is happening?
Getting closer
The
together.
closer you get to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Pray together. I'm closer to Vicky when we pray together than any other time.
Mm.
I mean, it's a blessing.
Mm.
And that's important. We do ministry together, whatever it is, church, Gideons, witnessing.
Mm.
I've been with her and watched her lead somebody to the Lord on the streets of Dallas. She's
Wow.
been with me when I've had that opportunity.
Mm.
You know, we're on the same page spiritually. And if you let that be the driving factor, the other things that happen will fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll filter things that happen through your knowledge of how Jesus has given us instruction, just the wisdom that you gain by walking with the Lord and studying His Word and being close with Him. It'll make you a great husband first, and if you're blessed to have children, a father as well.
Yeah, you said that in marriage, like purpose of it is also procreation. So like having kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How can you be a good dad to your kids?
Same thing. You're still the spiritual leader.
Mm.
And you're not only the spiritual leader of your wife first, but you are to your children.
Mm.
There's no greater compliment that a son or a daughter can give to a father than to say, he's the most godly man I know.
Mm.
And, you know, that's earned over time.
Mm-hmm.
But God blesses that.
Mm-hmm.
And so to be a good dad, you got to be the spiritual leader. And again, He gives us instruction. I mean, just study His Word. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs, Psalms are full of things that give us instruction and how to interact with our family.
Mm-hmm. If your life was a book right now, what would you call the chapter that you're in? What would the title be?
I'm in autumn. Some would say I'm in winter. No, I know I'm in the latter part of my life. I know that. You know, you have to come to grips with that. And I think, you know, even your mother said it yesterday. I think some of the physical things that break down is getting you ready to shed this old body and the pains and suffering that goes with life. And sadly, later in life, a lot of it's physical. And so I'm in that latter part. I mean, I may live another day. I may live 10 years. Who knows? I don't know. I don't care. I mean, the Lord knows.
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
If He's ready, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be a blessing. A lot of my peers, we were talking about it, we had 575 graduate, 163 are dead.
Mm-hmm.
We keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
Had another one die this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I, like I said, I think about things visually. I'm in this line,
Mm-hmm.
and we're walking towards this cliff. And one day I'm going to be the front of the line,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to jump off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not there yet, but I will be one day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thankful for the 78 years I've been given.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see what the Lord has in mind.
If Jesus was sitting here in this chair and y'all were having a conversation, what do you think He would say to you right now?
I hope He would say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant."
Mm.
That's what I hope
Mm.
to hear one
Yeah.
day. And I want to finish strong. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. So how do you want people to remember you?
That I love the Lord, that I tried to lead others to Him when I had opportunity.
Mm.
I've talked to thousands of people about Jesus and still do. He gives you opportunities when you are ready to do that. And it's amazing. People are hurting all over. People need the Lord. You ain't got to go across the ocean.
Mm.
You can go right down the street, go next door. People are hurting, and they need the Lord. And you can share the good news of Jesus Christ and make that your top priority every day you are given.
Mm.
And God will put people in your path. I mean, you'll bump into them, not even thinking, but you're ready.
Mm.
So, yes.
That's so good. If I asked my dad this question, and he had to think on it just a minute, but if none of your journals existed or any videos that you've ever recorded or social media posts or anything, and it was all gone, but you had 60 seconds to leave a message to the world and to your family, what would you say?
I'd say love Jesus, repent on a daily basis, be thankful every day for the blessings that God gives you. Count your many blessings, name them one by one, as the old hymn says. And don't take for granted the people that God puts in your life, especially your family. Most important. Take care of your family first. And then God will give you opportunity to take care of others. But never ignore your family in pursuit of other things in this world. That's some of the things I would say.
That's really good. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up this conversation?
Let's go eat breakfast.
I'm down. Let's do it.
Thank you, Calvary.
Thank you, Daddy Pop.